Okay, so here we are again with my wife's Glock, and you can see it's been completely detail stripped. What we're going to be doing today is Cerakote. We're going to do this one in a lighter version of black, and we're also going to be doing this one in white first, then pink. It's best to get a white undercoat and then spray the pink so it gets a more of a vibrant color. We're also going to be doing a little bit of stencil work on just the top of the slide here. If you don't know how to detail strip your firearm, I would highly recommend you have a qualified armorer do it. I happen to be a qualified armorer, so it's quite simple. Not too many parts in a Glock, so if that's something you're interested in, go take a Glock armor school class. It's really worthwhile. Cerakote is a ceramic paint coating, and it is little detailed process to do, and I'm going to chop through this here. Basically, there's a couple of steps we're going to jump through, and if you're not familiar with any of these steps before doing this, I would probably caution you not to do this yourself unless you have some kind of experience doing sandblasting, powder coating, any of that kind of stuff. Starts to get real scientific. We'll try and make it as easy as possible to understand, and I'm going to go ahead and start the soaking process with the acetone. Basically, I have a really cheap meatloaf pan because it's got holes in the top dish, so it'll let me pull it all out. I'm going to let this soak for 15 minutes in acetone, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so it's been soaking for 15 minutes. Now I'm pulling the parts out of the acetone, slowly letting it drain off here. And you can see why I use the meatloaf pan. There's nice little holes in the bottom. Alright, now it's real important that from here you don't touch it with your fingers, because if you touch it with your fingers, the oil in your fingers can get in the part. Now we have to let this air dry. And to do that, I'm going to be using some string. Nice orange cotton yarn, love it, and it's already pretty much getting dry, so we're just going to let it dry a little bit more, and I'm going to use the hooks that I'm going to use to paint it with. I'm going to paint it out here as well as sandblast it out here. I don't have a fancy schmancy sandblasting booth, so I'm going to just free blast it, and that's why I'm doing it outside. If you have a fancy schmancy sandblasting booth, by all means, do it wherever you can. This guy here, slippery slidey. I'll grab that front sight hole here, just like that, and bring it from my handy dandy hook. There we go, let that air dry. And I'm going to do the same thing to the frame. I'll be right back with you with the sandblasting. Alright, so just after a few minutes all the acetone has dried off, and I'm going to hit it with 120 grit aluminum oxide sand. I just got a tiny little bucket there. It'll go for a couple of guns that I've got here. And it's going to strip off pretty much all the old finish here, and we're just going to hit it kind of like this. I'm going to finish this up. I'll be right back out with the gas out process. So the nitty-gritty is done. They are sitting in the oven here, and we are doing the gas out. And the gas out sits at 300 degrees for 60 minutes. And this would be one boring video if I sat here for 60 minutes and let you just watch it heat up. So we're going to let it do its thing, and you can see it's all nice and sandblasted. See if I can zoom in on that a little bit. It doesn't want to autofocus there for some odd reason. Okay, so it's all nice and sandblasted. All the black is off. Sandblasted the bottom frame as well. And we'll get back to it when we get to the blowout and the first coat of Cerakote. So they're just out of the oven, and I want to show you this here. See that wet spot there, right by the front slide lock, right here, on both sides and on the back. That is a result of the outgassing, and that is oil being driven out of the slide, or out of the frame there. And I've also got an example of it on the slide as well. Right there, you can see just a flash of oil being driven out of the slide there. Now, as soon as these cool enough to get back in the acetone, they're going to go back in the acetone for another 15 minutes, and then back in the oven for another 30 minutes. So it's really important that you get all these wet spots completely out of your part before you spray the paint. Otherwise, the paint's going to peel right off of where that where those wet spots are. All the outgassing process is done. I've got the Cerakote Bright White right here, and I'm just going to shake it up real good. And for the satin finish that we're going for, it's 18 parts paint to 1 part hardener. So what we're going to do is, I've got this little bitty guy here, and that is in milliliters. So I'm looking for 36 milliliters of paint and 2 milliliters of hardener that I'm going to put in this nice little measuring pot here. And then I've got a filter over here that I'm going to push it through. So we open that bad boy up, and of course I am in a well ventilated area. Take out my stir stick for a sec, and we're going to pour that up to 36. Right there's 36. We're going to close that bad boy back up, just like so. And now we need to draw out 2 mils of hardener. This is going to be the tricky part, trying to get that hardener up here without spilling it. You know what would be easier? Is to just put 2 mils of hardener in here. Bring it up to 38. So I'm just going to pour it up to 38 here. And there it is, 38. Easy enough. Now we got to make sure that this gets fully stirred up and mixed up, otherwise it'll come out clumpy, and that is not something you want to have happen, because that's just going to jam the gun. So we're going to stir that up good. And you see, this is a disposable stir stick that I've got, so I'm just going to chunk this one when I'm done. Ordinarily though, we would clean this off with acetone, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with my measuring cylinder when I'm done with it. So I'm just going to run some acetone through it, clean it out, as with my paint gun. Now the paint gun, speaking of paint guns, is an HVLP, that's high volume, low pressure paint gun, and it came in the kit that I got from Cerakote, as well as did this measuring beaker here, as well as the filters, the hardener, and 6 colors of paint. So it was a really nice setup that they had available, and that's pretty well stirred. So if I can get my lovely assistant over here to hold this paper filter for us. There we go, beautiful hands there. And I'm just going to pour all of this straight into that filter and make sure that there's no chunks of clumps or anything in there. And this is a disposable paper filter that came with the kit, so we're not going to reuse this. And I'm just going to make sure that it all gets through there, and we're good. And that's it. Whew, that is some strong stuff. Make sure you are in a well ventilated area to use this stuff. Okay, so in an uncovered container, this stuff will stay lit for about 2 hours before it starts to gel out and ruin. In a covered container or a sealed container, it's about 4 hours, and that hardener is starting to make my eyes water. We're going to pour that right into the gun. And it's not very much. I mean, shoot, you saw just how little there was in there. And that is it. It only filled about 1/5 of the way up there. All right, so next you will see me spraying some paint. So I've already adjusted my spray gun to get me a good pattern and a good flow. And they recommend that you get the hardest parts first. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so the first coat's done, and we've got the white all completed all the way around, both pieces, and we're going to get the pink done tomorrow because it's late and I'm done for the day, and you can see just how good that white really came out and really popped on all the parts there, both the frame and the slide. Oh, I'm in my light. And just take your time, do it right, do the redip if you need to in the acetone, make sure that you do the gas out properly so that you get all the oils out. Alright, I'll spray the pink tomorrow and we'll get back to you then. Okay, so I just took them out of the oven after their final spray with the final color on it, and you can see that the final color came out fantastic. And I'll get you a little close-up color here, a little close-up vision. And we've got a graphite black on the frame, and I didn't have to do the white spray first, but it sure did make it come out nice and clean. And then we've got the bright pink on the slide, and that bright pink really came out very, very nice. It's not quite as intense as the prison pink that they call it from Cerakote, but it gives it a very nice, light, intense pink. Alright, so it's all set. It's all finished and complete. You can see I've got the final assembly done, all except for the rear sight. The rear sight is sitting right here. I just don't have a rear sight press, so I'm going to take that up to the local gun shop and have that pressed on. Black came out really well. To demonstrate the difference between the stock Glock black, you've got that one there, and then the finished graphite black. In the camera it doesn't really show it justice, but in person there's a definite vibrance to the black that's much deeper, and then of course that bright pink there. And that's pretty much it. You see how I've done the Cerakote. There is a little bit of gunsmithing that may need to be done to get everything to work quite right afterwards. Again, this is not an entry-level do-it-yourself project, just to get your tolerances right, to make sure the gun functions properly. So make sure you know what you're doing. If you're uncomfortable with any of this stuff or seems over your head, have a professional do it. Alright, if you got any questions, post comments. And I know some of you guys don't like pink guns. Well, I don't carry a pink gun. This is my wife's. Don't carry a pink gun if you don't like one. Alright?